Good morning, Instagram. Hello, hello, hello. Deirdre Rudin Hall and Cheyenne Young is going to be joining us in just a moment, and you are at Writers Uncut. And I want to welcome you. This is our weekly live chat held here on Instagram with Cheyenne Young, as I said, and Deirdre Rudin Hall, myself. We discuss all things writing and publishing and welcome your questions in the comments of the live video, or you can send them to us online. As writers, we do a lot of editing, and because of that, this show is uncut, unfiltered, and unedited to share the real story of what it's like to be in this industry. So, we have some questions this week, and we want to invite you to pop them in the box below. Hello, Jen. Hello, Matt. Matt, we have your questions. Thank you. And we're just going to have Cheyenne join us in a moment. Let's see. I want her. Okay, here we go. She is going to join us, and here we are. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good, good.
I see we have our two best viewers on. I love you guys so much. They're the only ones that ask questions.
Yes.
I also have a question from Jennifer today. So.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I never noticed this before, but you can there's stickers that we post like in our regular stories. You can like bring them up and read them while we're live, because I always put them on my computer. It's just like so many steps, or I write them down so I don't forget. But I guess you can look right from here. Maybe you knew that. I didn't.
Yeah, that's the only way that I check it.
I'm just behind the times. Don't mind me. Well, anyway, shall we jump right into it, or should we do a personal update?
Let's do a personal update. I see that you have your new phone. You look amazing.
So I look very
yes.
clear. Yeah,
yes, very clear.
Last night. Yes. I have it propped up like against the wall because the little stand thing that I had before doesn't hold this phone. It's too big. It's a little too big. Like
You'll get used to it. You'll get used to it, but you really need to get a pop socket or something, because it's like impossible to hold on to the phone. And like I have a lanyard on my phone, like a little wrist strap, which you can actually kind of see here. And a pop socket, because I'm so scared I'm going to drop this thing because it's huge.
Okay, yeah, that's one of my fears. I actually got an OtterBox, like this protective shell to put around it, because I'm just so afraid that I'll break it because it was so stupidly expensive.
Me too. So do you want to give your personal update first?
Yes, I will. So let's see. This past couple weeks, actually, we took a break last week. I have been really just mostly involved in my pen name work, and that's going really well. And actually today I'm going to be doing some revisions, which I'm looking forward to before publication this next week. And I also queried a bunch of agents. And I hadn't mentioned this before, but my agent and I had parted ways, and so I'm back in the slush. And I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's important for everybody at every stage of writing, whether you are, independently publishing, whether you're going traditional, whether you're a hybrid, whether you don't really know what you want to do, which way is the best path for you in your work. There are so many hurdles, and you take 2 steps forward, and then sometimes you take like 5 back. It's not even 1 back. It's like a whole bunch, and you're like, wait, but I guess generally you're always moving in an upward direction, and, hopefully, and I was getting kind of down about some of my manuscripts, and I was like, oh, I've wasted all these words, and you and I've been talking about this. And, you had some good points, and it's part of the learning and growing experience. Like, no words are wasted. You learn, whether it's craft or storytelling or, just the industry in general, you always learn, hopefully. And so I've been sort of sitting with that, and, it's humbling, and can be, what's the word? Like, disheartening. But if it's on your heart, if it's part of, a dream that you have and a goal that you've set, then you just have to keep keep at it no matter what. My phone just asked me if I wanted to finish setting it up, which no, not right now. It's set up. I don't want Apple Pay. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so I'm kind of back there, and you know, like I said earlier, this show is unedited and unfiltered, and I think it's really important not only to discuss kind of the you know what some of the questions that you guys ask that are more technical, you know, about voice or character or whatever, but I think also it's important for us to be transparent and open about our journeys. And I think it can be so isolating. Like, we write alone, you know, so much of the process, we're just on our own at our desk, head down on the computer. And there's so many stories, you know, that you hear later on, especially when people become successful, like, oh yeah, it was so hard. It took me 10 years, but you kind of only see the glossed over version of that. And so I think it's important for us to share along the way, how difficult it can be, because we're all in this together. And I really believe in community over competition and all of that. So anyway, that's where I'm at, but I'm okay with it. I'm just keep on keeping on, like we say.
That's all we can do. I know you will get another agent soon. I also want to point out that, and this is not an exaggeration, every single writer I know, besides writers like me who have only been agented for a short while, they have had more than one agent. I know some friends that have had 3 to 5 agents. Wow. So it's really something to be aware of. Like, because you read about going through the query process and how it's so hard to get an agent. And there are so many people that, like, most people, I think, don't keep the same agent forever. You know, people quit, or they move on, or go separate ways, or you start writing something your agent doesn't represent. So it's something to keep in mind. I certainly hope I'm with my agent for a very long time, but I have no idea. And she's been agenting for like 15 years or so. And I'm always worried that one day she's going to say, guess what, I'm retiring or something. But she is not old. I want to put this out there. She's not old at all. But I'm just like, you know, what if she's like, I want to move on and do something else? So publishing is always scary and full of so many ups and downs, and that goes with editors too. I have had, luckily it hasn't happened to me yet, but I know several writer friends who they get a book deal, they're working on the book, and the next thing they know, the editor has left. That editor either quit or got another job or was reassigned or fired or something, and now their book is just kind of hanging out. And sometimes it'll get picked up by another editor, and sometimes the publisher will cancel the book because there's nobody at the publishing house championing for it. How do you even say that word? I don't know. So, you know, so there's always, and you said it's like 1 step forward and 5 step back, and it often feels like that. But I want to say that publishing is like this little stair ladder thing, and once you reach a rung, even if it feels like you're taking steps back, you're still there.
Yeah.
You know, once you're published, once you've written a manuscript, doesn't matter how many rejections you get or how many bad things tumble on top of your head, you never fall back. You're still on that level that you got. So it's always really good to look back and be grateful for your accomplishments. You know, even if all you've done is start writing a manuscript or plan a manuscript or finish just one manuscript, like that's a higher level than you were before, and nothing will take that away. Yeah. So anyway,
I'll say one more thing on that tangent, kind of that I took us down. But the other thing is there's often this misconception, and I definitely had it, that like, okay, once I get the agent, I've made it. Or, you know, like, once this happens, I've made it. And I know you've had this experience, we both have, where it's like, it's just a constant kind of not reevaluating. How do I want to say it? Like, you're just at every stage, when we've talked about this, there's just hurdles. And sometimes, you know, the ones that you think like, okay, here we go, like, this is it, like, 6-figure deal, here I come, or whatever the big dream is. So then, you know, then something happens, or there's a delay, or there's, like you're saying, like, things get canceled or whatever. And so just to keep in mind, because I think it can be very deterring. You know, it's like, okay, finally you get the agent, and then something happens, or you're on submission, and, you know, an editor rejects the book, and it can be like, okay, like, I give up. And that, I think it's important for us all to know that this is just part of the process. Like, no one tells you that. No one tells you, like, okay, crappy things are going to happen. Things aren't going to work out like the first time around, or whatever it is. And like, we're just sort of like, once we get to a certain stage, we think like, okay, it's going to be smooth sailing. And, you know, that's not the case. And I know a lot of people realize that, you know, inherently, but I think sometimes it's like, okay, like, cool, great. Like, here I go. And then it's like, oh, okay. You don't,
You're always holding your breath in publishing. You can never release that breath and say it's smooth sailing from here on out. That never, ever, ever happens. And it might happen for like 30 minutes after you get good news, but then you're holding your breath again. Yeah. So, which segues into my personal update. So okay. I've started writing my new project. I am epically behind on it. I have 5.5 chapters. But it's April 10th right now, so I should have 10 chapters because my goal is 1 chapter a day. But, things are busy. I've been running errands and just kind of, like yesterday, I just kind of sat in my backyard and didn't do anything all day. So, stuff happens and it is what it is. But I am 50% in love with my manuscript and 50% feel like I should just delete it while I'm ahead and never think about it again. So, I'm just par for the course there. And also I'm kind of sad because I was really hoping I could announce my special announcement today. I thought for sure I would be able to because I have seen the press release and the press release was dated for yesterday, but it still hasn't been posted online yet. So I talked to my agent and I was like, I don't know if we can announce this yet. And she was like, let me find out. So I don't know yet. Hopefully at some point this week, because the news is actually being announced at a fancy event in France right now. I think it's called Cannes, France. I don't know how to pronounce it. It looks like Cannes. I think it's called Cannes. I don't know. Anyway, it's being announced there. So if you want to Google that and make your own Anyway, yeah, so hopefully next week we can share my exciting news, which I can't wait till we do that so I can tell you how even exciting news can still make you feel like you've taken 5 steps back. Like, I really do feel like you can never stop holding your breath in this publishing world. It's always really something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my update. I'm doing terrible on my WIP right now, which will help us answer Jennifer's questions. So you hang tight, Jennifer, because I have some really great advice for you.
Speaking of Jennifer, she had a really good comment. Jennifer Akers wrote, "It sounds like the goalposts are always moving in publishing," and that is so true. I love the holding your breath analogy, and I love that because, or I don't know if it's an analogy, but yeah, those are both really good ways to think about it and just something to keep in mind. Like we're positive and we're enthusiastic and we're cheering each other on, and that's not to say we're like, if say, for instance, what you did today was write a paragraph of your manuscript. That's not to say that, us not meeting our goals or, having setbacks is diminishing your experience in any way. But it is relative, and it is always just, it's tough at every stage. Anyway.
Well, we're cheery and happy online, but I will still send you an email filled with sad face emojis. So, it almost sounds really just not fun hearing myself say all this, but really I will still say 100 times over that I am so glad to be a writer. I will always be a writer, and really it's such a rewarding experience when something good happens, when you have any kind of win, whether it's getting a paragraph written or a book deal or anything. It all feels completely worth it. Mm-hmm. They say it's like raising children or whatever, but it's better than that. Okay, it is. It's more satisfying getting a book deal than seeing your kid after school when they're in a bad mood. But anyway,
they don't
yeah, for real. I mean, I guess Kirk is kind of sass as you, but anyway. So do we want to start with Matt's questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So I press the little question button, right? Post questions. Okay. Are you there?
Yes.
I don't know what I did. Okay, I can't figure this out. I'm turning on my computer, and I'm just going to read Matt's question from the computer because that's what I'm going to do. Because I'm not.
Okay, I have it pulled up. If you want me to read it.
Okay. I got it. I think I have it. Let's see. Okay. All right. So Matt Voyager asks, "I see you have your books on sale in the UK. How do you approach international sales?"
Well, like all things, I have 2 answers to the question. For indie self-publishing versus traditional publishing, For self-publishing, I have actually found some pretty good success in using Facebook ads that are targeted to these international sites. So far, I only do Amazon UK, but there's a bunch of other ones. And I found one thing that's really cool about international ebook sales, and I'm saying ebooks because I don't really sell many paperbacks in self-publishing. One thing that's really cool about it is it's not as big of a site. It's not as popular. So it's really easy to get your book ranking in the top 100 or top 50 of your category with just like $10 a day in Facebook ads. So, and then once you get your book ranking really well, things really take off. So that's pretty much the only thing I do for international sales. I can't visit most international websites. So, I can't, and there's like Canadian ebook sites that I can't even go to, like it won't work, I guess because I'm in the US. So I really rely on Facebook ads, and when you go into the audience to target, you just select people in the UK to send your ad to, and then you put the UK Amazon link, which Amazon will give you in your dashboard. And as for traditional publishing, I feel like I don't do anything for international sales. My publisher tries to sell foreign rights, and I have the German version of The Last Wish of Sasha K will be coming out in May, so I'm super excited about that. And my publisher really handles getting the books for sale in other countries. I've had a surprising amount of emails from readers in Brazil who have picked up my book, and it hasn't sold in Brazil. It's just the US version, the English version, is being stocked in those bookstores, which I think is awesome. And I had one teen reader tell me that she found it in the international section of her bookstore, and she bought it because she's trying to learn English. And so she was using my book to help her, which I thought was amazing.
That's so sweet.
So yeah, it was super, super cool. And we've had quite a few email exchanges. It's just, there's something so exciting about emailing with someone that read your book and loves it. I feel like we get so much rejection and, annoying, sad stuff that just having someone tell you you're amazing is really fun. Mm-hmm. So anyway, as far as traditional international sales, I don't really do anything. I don't pay for ads for my traditional books because I don't think there's really a return on the investment for that. So I just sit back and hope that the publisher does something. I think also you can if you can get your US sales as high as possible, that might help translate, that might make foreign markets approach you. It hasn't happened to me, but I've had some author friends tell me that foreign publishers have actually emailed them and said, hey, we want to buy the Italian rights or something to their book. And that's how they got that international book deal. So it's all based on the success of their USA book. Yeah. So that's my answer.
So my answer is along the same lines. The one thing I'll add about I guess it could work for both, but for indie publishing, I call them discovery sites. I don't know what they're actually called, like newsletter aggregators. So like e-reader, what's it called? ENT.
Like BookBub.
Yeah, like BookBub, but more
e-reader like News Today or something.
Yeah, BookSends, Robin Reads, like all of those. Free Booksy, those kinds of things. There are a few in the UK that I've been looking into because, some of my pen name books take place in England. So I have like a little royalty theme going on. But anyway, yeah, so I've been looking into that. There are a few targeted toward UK readers, which is interesting. I don't know the results or the effectiveness of it yet because I've only just started doing that, but that's an option. Some people have a lot of success with those, again, the discovery sites with their books, like free, if they use their free days or whatever. So that's nice. Also, if you have a book published already and you're trying to get eyes on it, if you do use your free days on Amazon, as a self-published author, it works in the other territories. So the UK, Australia, Canada, and so that can kind of just get eyes on your book, in those places and recognition as an author, and that can kind of drive it a little bit. And like Cheyenne said, the Facebook ads and Amazon ads, I don't really know if they're like if people in other countries, there's not really data for that. So, and let's see, I was going to say one other thing. About traditional publishing. So when Sugar was published, I had and they're with an Amazon imprint, so Skyscape Publishing, which is like kind of like a boutique publisher owned by Amazon. And My book was translated into Hungarian, which is really cool. Like, just so exciting. Like, I have a copy and I can't read it. I have no idea, but I do. Like, it's just so unreal. But I also had someone from China and France approach me, and a few others just send, like you said, just send emails. And so then I forward them on to, my contacts. And nothing became of some of them. I think they determine whether or not it's worth pursuing or whatever. But if you are independently published, you getting an agent is an option. And there are some big name indie authors who do get an agent, and mostly just for foreign rights. So that's something that, like, it's kind of above and beyond my realm of knowledge, but it's something to look into if it's, of interest to you. But I think also the last thing I'll say, whether you're indie or traditional, is collaborating with other authors, maybe reaching out with a friendly email, if you write in a similar genre or share an audience or whatever, and, maybe do a Facebook event together or swap newsletters or something like that can be helpful.
I liked your point about getting an agent for foreign sales as an indie author. That's actually a really good point. I know a few people that have done that. Don't ask me how you go about doing it, because I don't know. There might be a special, maybe you search for agents that are specifically interested in representing indie authors just for specific rights.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it's definitely worthwhile to try to approach international sales. We live in this little American bubble, but there's certainly millions of other people that like to read. So, I cannot wait to get my German copy of my book. And I know I won't be able to read it either, but I'm very, very excited. Cool. So do we want to move on to Matt's second question?
Sure thing. All right. So he also asks, is it advisable to try and deal with regional accents in writing?
I have heard people ask this on message boards and stuff, and I've seen different advice. And my advice is kind of my personal opinion, which I will say is correct and true. So I have an example for you. In Harry Potter, every time Hagrid speaks, it drives me crazy. Like, I cannot stand. See, and Chewie doesn't like it either. I cannot stand the weird accented words, because it takes me a second and I have to slow down and try to figure out what they're trying to say. So I feel like it's too much. But I think, and then sometimes I've seen if someone and I think you're talking about the dialogue, where they're making words sound like they would sound phonetically with an accent. And sometimes I think it can come off as kind of insensitive. You don't want to be stereotypical, but there are some ways where it's done well and it's done sparingly and it doesn't bother me. For example, if you have a Southern belle and she says darlin', and you just drop the G and put a little apostrophe, that's fine. I know what it says. I can picture it in my head. It's not going to make me stop and try to dissect this sentence to see, what it's supposed to be. So I say use it sparingly and make sure you're not being really insensitive with it. So that's my advice. And I also say go back and read Hagrid's dialogue lines in Harry Potter, because it's awful. And that's one thing I could not stand about reading those books. Besides, other than that, I adore Harry Potter, but that's my 2 cents. So what are yours?
My 2 cents are, I have 5 cents, but my 2 cents are, when I read all of the Harry Potter books aloud to my children multiple times, and I did Hagrid's voice, which I will not do here. But
come on.
It was actually really fun to read it that way out loud. Jim Dale does a much better job. But So I love the mind.
Wait, did you say Jim Dale?
Yeah.
I've met him in real life and he was awesome.
He's voices like a lullaby. I'm like,
I know.
Oh,
very cool.
He's
the guy that reads the audiobooks of Harry Potter, just for anyone that knows.
Oh, yeah.
And he said he had something like 120 different voices for all the characters in the books.
Wow.
And he's got them memorized and he can recite them on cue. It was very, very cool. I got to see him back in 2008 at Harry Potter convention. Oh, wow. And it was cooler than you would think it is. It was fun. So I'm sorry, go on.
No, that's awesome. I love little stories like that. So I think in fiction writing, J.K. Rowling can get away with it.
She certainly can.
But I think generally speaking, uh, in fantasy or sci-fi, sometimes like there's a place for it, I guess. It depends on what you're writing. But if you're just writing straight up contemporary fiction or even historical, I think there are ways to portray that the person has an accent, or, I'll even write like, they replied in accented English if they, speak French or something.
Right. Or with a strong British accent or something. I do that too.
And just to kind of remind the reader, like, because sometimes when I'm reading in my head, obviously I'm reading, I like to kind of imagine what they would sound like if they were talking to each other. And so you kind of just get into that flow, especially if you're really involved and invested in the story. There was one, I wrote a dystopian a while back, and I don't think it's available anymore, but I had there's a dad in it, and he had like I don't know what kind of accent I was going for, but he would use like the word "yer" like for your, or so, I forget. But I was like,
okay.
Why did I do that? It's kind of dumb. But I wanted to like set him apart and kind of portray like that he was this like rugged mountain dad kind of character, and but it was sparing. And let's see, there's an author, she's Scottish, her name's Samantha Young, and I've read a couple of her books, and I've noticed that she'll use like colloquialisms that I'm not necessarily familiar with, but I get the gist from context. Like I get what it means without needing to know. And I mean, she's not using like accents, but just different words that kind of remind me, oh yeah, this person has a Scottish accent.
Right. Or Australian, that works really well with Australian dialogue. Yes. Just the different dialect that they use and the words they use and stuff, like I will immediately be saying it in my head with an Australian accent. Yeah. And they didn't have to change any, or they didn't have to like butcher the words. They just used the way that they speak. So you can do that. But also I would say research it too, so you're not too stereotypical. Yeah. I'm currently tackling that in my book right now. I have a British girl, and I'm like, what fun words can I put in here?
Yeah.
But I'm trying not to overdo it.
I think Matt, who asked this question, is actually from the UK, so you can ask him.
Okay. Right, there we go.
Oh, so I was also going to say, like, just in terms of like the technicality of handling this, say just for instance, you're a British English speaking person and you're writing an American English speaking person, maybe from the South where the accent is more, where the accent is more, I don't know, how do you describe, like, it's just, you
better watch yourself. I don't know. I get made fun of all the time for the way I talk.
Well, you gotta say, there's a northern accent, like whatever, whatever region you're going for, I guess is a better way to say it. So, I think you could just label like when, in some part of description of the character. Yeah, there we go. Jennifer Akers says the drawl. Like you can just say
the drawl, the twang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so then the reader gets that cue, and then they're gonna read that without having to, drop your G's and kind of like butcher your sentences, because then that takes the reader out of the story. So that's my 10 cents now, I think, at this point. And Matt, since you're on here, if you had any follow-ups, if you wanted to ask anything else related to that, feel free to. Otherwise, we can move on to the question.
Yes, so Jennifer, she asked, what advice would you give someone who is sucking at Camp Nano right now? So, and this made me laugh because I'm right there with you. So for anyone that doesn't know, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, and it's every November. And the goal is to write a 50,000 word novel in 1 month, in the month of November. And they have a little website and you can post your updates and stuff. And there's another like kind of spin-off site called Camp Nano, which takes place in April. And it's the same thing. You write a manuscript in the month of April. And I actually joined Jennifer's, what's it called? Clubhouse or something? Camp House? I don't know. This is my first time doing Camp Nano. And so it's like we have this little group of writers, and we can encourage each other, and we post updates every day. And so the goal, 50,000 words a day over 30 days, is 1,667 words a day you have to write. And so her advice is, her question is, what advice would we give her if she's sucking at it right now? Oh, it's called The Cabin. Thank you, Jennifer. So my advice, and This is coming from someone who is a self-proclaimed very fast writer. Usually I knock out 5,000 to 7,000 words a day on my normal days, no problem. Like I said, the past 10 days, I am not. I wanted 10 chapters written. I'm like halfway there. So I am also, and I feel like I'm not struggling to write. I'm struggling to focus and sit down and work. Once I start writing, I do write. It's just I've been so busy and so preoccupied that I just cannot seem to find the time. So here's my quick and dirty advice for you. For one, actually sit down and write. Don't just tell yourself you are. For two, try doing sprints. Try setting a timer for 15 minutes and seeing how many words you can write in that time, and then get up, walk away, and take a break, because sometimes they say you have to have your butt in the chair to get a novel written. And while that's true, sometimes if your butt's in the chair for too long, you're just going to lose all motivation and you won't get any writing done. So get up and walk around, do something, reward yourself every 15-minute writing sprint. Another trick, and I actually tweeted about this recently, is like, I want to tell yourself it's okay to write crap. You know, it's just a first draft. Tell yourself it's fine. You can just write these ugly, terrible sentences. Who cares? And I was trying to do that yesterday, and it did not work. And I was like, okay, you can say all day long, just write the crap. It's no big deal. You can fix it later. But when you're trying to do that, it's really hard, because I don't want to make something ugly that I have to spend extra time fixing tomorrow. So if that advice helps you and motivates you, then take it. But I cannot in good faith give that advice right now, because it's very hard to apply. Another tip I have is write just the dialogue. And this is one of my favorite tips, and I do it almost every day. Whatever's happening in your scene or your chapter that you need to get done, just write the dialogue. Just write, you know, quote, quote, hey, what's going on? Quote, quote, not much. What's up with you? That's a terrible scene. Don't write that. But just put dialogue, 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 and you kind of get into it. And the next thing you know, you want to go back and add, you know, she turned away quickly or something, or she slammed the door. I don't know why my dialogue became an argument, but you know what I mean? Like, you'll find yourself wanting to add little tidbits and add a little more, and then maybe add a sentence, and the next thing you know, you're writing a whole chapter and you're getting it done, because just the dialogue will inspire you to flesh out that scene. That's like one of my favorite things. It always works for me, so try that out. And I think that's about all the good advice I have right now. Do you have any advice?
For some reason, I was really focusing on what you were saying, and when you asked the question, I had a bunch of ideas pop into my mind, and then I'm like, oh, what were they? I can't remember. So one thing, well, two things. The first one is, do you have an outline? Do you outline? I forget. Jen has been on here a bunch with us, so I feel like it's probably come up, but if you don't outline, I would recommend writing a synopsis, or at least a blurb, something to kind of get you going. If you're just like, and I've pantsed like a story once, and I think actually it was for Nano one year, and you know, I got it done, but you know, it probably was crappy. And I'm not saying that pantsers are crappy, but I find that when you have the added pressure of trying to write X number of words in X number of days, and you don't have like a direction, or you know, little a roadmap, then you can get lost. And so if you're stuck, or if you're just not feeling it, I would say write your beginning, your middle, and your end. Or, you know, write what would be on the back of the book when it's done. Or write a synopsis and expand on the beginning, the middle, and the end, and connect those dots. And that can help you kind of, you know, maybe even as you're writing that, you're going to generate more ideas and maybe a couple scenes, and maybe you can kind of go from there. The other thing is, when you said you haven't been able to focus, I feel like, I don't know. Anyway, the other thing I was going to say was, dead air. When I was in high school, this is a little aside, I had a radio show, and
what?
My high school had a radio station, and I had my friend and we had a radio show, a couple friends and I, like over the 4 years. And I remember them always telling you, like, because you were just basically in charge of the whole thing, like you ran the whole thing, and you know, they always said, like, no dead air, like it can never be silent. Make sure some sound is happening at all times. And now I'm like, I can't remember what I was going to say, what my other suggestion was. Dead air. I'm feeling the pressure.
Well, I thought of a few more. Okay. You're right. It's like ideas come to me and they fly out of my head. One thing you could do, I completely agree with you with the outline. If you don't have an outline, you are shooting yourself in the foot. But more practically, one thing you can do is shoot your character in the foot, metaphorically or not. Throw a wrench at them. Like wherever you are in your story, if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, just do something terrible to them. Have them staple their hand on accident, or I don't know, fall down the stairs. I don't know, just have something happen to them, or, you know, something not fun that fits in the tone with your story, and just take that and run with that. And I say something bad because it's so easy to write, like when we're torturing our characters. It's just really easy to put them through all this bad stuff. And again, that might just spur you on, especially in regards to Camp Nano. You just need to get the words done. So that's the main goal. So, you know, open up your document and type, you know, my main character, whatever their name is, falls down the stairs. And then you have to deal with that. And I speak from experience that falling down the stairs is a terrible thing to happen to you. And you might even be able to keep it in your final draft, just because the best part of storytelling is constantly abusing your main character. So try something like that, just something off the wall, something random, you know, but not so far that it deviates your outline too bad. But whatever scene they're in, just have something bad happen. Have them like drop their tray of food at a restaurant or something. I don't know. And see if that spurns you, because a lot of times you just have to get the words down and you need the inspiration to do it.
I'm going to add to what you're saying, because you actually reminded me of what I was going to say. Thank you. Is that a lot of times when we're feeling stuck, it's because there's a lack of conflict. And, you know, what you're saying, adding in something terrible happening is a form of conflict. It's adding in layers of tension, or just things that the characters need to interact with. It could be another character. It could be falling down the stairs. It could be a situation that they didn't see coming. And again, it needs to fit within the tone, like your story. It can't be like, you know, you're writing like a love story and then all of a sudden there's an alien invasion. It's not going to work. But they could meet someone that believes that there's aliens are real, and like, then how do they respond to that? Like, maybe this person is like pressuring them to go to like an alien conspiracy meeting, and like, you know, some hijinks happen. Who knows? Anyway.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
So
throw a wrench into the plans.
Yes. And don't be afraid to throw your characters down the stairs, metaphorically, or literally, I guess. And then the other thing was just, I find that when I am stalling and when the words aren't coming, when there's no inspiration flowing from me, it is because I've taken the wrong turn. So maybe the alien idea isn't the right one for your story, but maybe wherever you're at is also maybe not where the characters want to go, like where the natural flow. Like if you imagine, like water always takes the path of least resistance, like the kind of, like of course we want to have resistance and conflict in the story, but when you're writing, you want to kind of follow that thread. And sometimes we'll write ourselves into a corner or into a place where that's not really where the story needs to go. And so, you know, that can kind of be something to look at as well and be like, is this really how they would respond? Is this really what needs to be happening? Like, was this like, go back a couple scenes and sort of reread or evaluate, like, is this what the story direction is, or did I somehow, you know, go the wrong way? So that was my other idea.
Yes. So I hope that helps, Jennifer. If you want to meet up for coffee, we can totally do that. And we can pretend I do writing sprints, but instead just talk. That's typically how all my meetups go with other authors. So yeah, I hope that helps. Try the dialogue thing. It's my favorite. Matt just asked me a question. He said, I know you do lots of ghostwriting. Do you ever get frustrated seeing your work out there with someone else's name? Yes and no, because I do ghostwriting and freelance writing to keep the bills paid and to keep this mortgage paid, and it's my day job. So it just is what it is. When I was working in engineering, I did all the work all the time and then saw my bosses go to the meetings and hold up the drawings I made and claim all the credit for it. And at the end of the year, the big bosses get these huge bonuses based on how much work they get done. And guess who's doing the work? It was me. So I'm kind of used to that. But so on one hand, no. On the other hand, Cheyenne Young is kind of an unknown nobody, especially on Amazon. And some of the pen names that I write for are in the top 100 authors. And so it's kind of like, you know, like I did that. but it's, you know, it is what it is. And that's what you agree to when you do it to get the bills paid. And we have to do some pretty crappy things sometimes to get the bills paid. But I truly am so grateful for freelance writing because, like I said, it allows me to stay home and wear my pajamas all day and hang out with my dog all day and do what I like to do. And I feel like the freelance writing that I do, it only helps improve my own writing skills. So it's like I'm improving myself and I'm getting paid for it. So it's okay. It's not too bad. Sometimes it's annoying. Most of the time it's not. So he also had a follow-up question. Has it changed your view on publishing and what is out there? Oh my gosh, yes. Especially mostly for self-publishing, indie publishing. There are so many authors that do not write their own books and get really famous online, and it's kind of sad. And I had put up an account on a freelance website a year or so ago, and I since took it down because that website was bananas. But I had like 3 or 4 very popular indie authors contact me to write their books for them. And I was kind of like, wait a minute, I know you, like, as myself, that you don't know that I'm the ghostwriter here. And I cannot believe you ghostwrite your novels. Like, I'm just so ashamed for you. Yeah, and like some really big names. And I wish I could go tell everybody, but you can't because there's confidentiality clauses. But yeah, so it's changed a little bit because I feel like there's a few authors online that look like these super prolific authors releasing 2 or 3 books a month, and they're not actually writing them themselves. So yeah, but that's mostly for self-publishing. It hasn't really changed my view on traditional publishing at all because they're really different monsters to tackle, I feel like.
And ghostwriting in traditional is like as old as time. You know, that's been around forever.
Well, I will never forget how devastated I was when I found out that Anne Martin, who writes the Babysitters Club books, is not actually one person that writes all the books. She wrote like the first few of them, but there's like, you know, 300 or 400. I don't know how many. I used to own them all when I was younger.
Me too.
It's a team of ghostwriters. And I was really heartbroken by that. But I think, you know, R.L. Stine, I think he does write all of his own books, so that's good. But I was just so devastated to realize that it wasn't just one awesome woman writing all these books that was like my idol.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, they were thin, paper thin, but.
Yeah, it's like, how hard is it to write it? But yeah, I guess because they were publishing so many. Yeah, Google it. It's really heartbreaking. I think it was like a team of like 10 authors or something that wrote them all.
Wow.
And I think it was, and I don't really remember. It's been a while since I read the story, but like she wrote the first few. And then the publisher just like bought the Babysitters Club brand from her.
Yeah.
And just mass produced it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, aw. Because you especially if you love an author in a series, like you think of that author as like an idol, as someone, you know, you admire.
Yeah.
And then when you find out they didn't write it. Right. So yeah, kind of a bummer. At least I didn't know that as a little kid. I was able to hold on to that, you know, inspiration for a long time. I was like in my 20s when I found out it was all a sham.
It's disappointing. So disappointing. But, you know, now kind of on the other side, like there are numerous indie authors who consist of 2 people. Like, you know, it's either they have a pen name together or they use like their 2 first names or something. Like sometimes you're like, why is that person's name like, you know, Mary Sue? Like that's the whole name. It's
well, Aaron Watt does that. It's actually kind of cool, I guess, because at least they're not ghostwriters. I guess they're just co-authors.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of neat. You and I are planning on writing a book together one day, and I think it'll be fun to figure out how. And I really feel like you're probably the only person I could co-write a book with, because like it seems like so much work, you know. And we really mesh and get along well. So. Yeah, it's a weird industry, and you know that all celebrities' books are ghostwritten, and you can kind of like, who cares? That doesn't bother you. But when you find out one of the top best-selling indie authors on Amazon doesn't write their own books, it's kind of like gut-punching, especially if they're bringing in a ton of money.
Yeah,
it's like they see it as a business, and we see it as a passion. This is our heart and soul and what we do, and they just see it as a way to rake in the cash, and so that's really disheartening. But you know, what are you going to do? People find ways to exploit every system.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, so if anyone has any other questions, we will get to those, but we're coming up sort of close to the hour. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Do you have any book recommendations for us? I didn't prepare one. I haven't, like the last week and a half, I haven't been reading, which is really, really unusual for me. But we have vacation and then just been busy with my own stuff. But usually, like, I do have a book going, and I just haven't.
I have spent the last week doing something bad. I reread a series instead of reading my gigantic pile of books to be read. So, and I always feel really guilty when I reread, because it's like there's only so much time in the world, and there's so many books I haven't read yet. But you know, if you love a series, you love a series. I do have a recommendation, and it's by an author that I recently got to meet for the first time. She's a Houston area author. She's awesome. Her name is Christina Mandaleski, and her newest book is called Love and Other Secrets. Ooh, it's a young adult contemporary, and it's out by Entangled Crush. And she actually wrote this book for hire, which I thought was super cool. And she said that the publisher's written a few books for hire, which is kind of like ghostwriting, but you get to put your name on it. Mm-hmm. It's where the publisher comes up with the concept and they want you to write it, and then you write it. And she said, which I thought was really interesting, because I kind of feel this way about ghostwriting, that even though someone's telling you what to write, by the time you finish the novel, it is 100% yours. Like, you come up with everything. The characters are yours, and you can really take ownership of it. It doesn't feel like you're, writing something stupid for someone. So, yeah, it was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. Do you mind sharing the series that you reread? Because I'm really curious.
Oh, it's just the Grisha series by Leigh Bardugo. Yeah, I've actually read it twice. Yeah, because King of Scars recently came out, and I'm gearing up. It's like I don't want it to be over.
Yes.
So I reread that. I was thinking of rereading Six of Crows and then reading, and then it's like I cannot describe the amount of guilt I feel when I reread a book, because like there's really only so many hours in the day, and I can't even. I'm embarrassed to show you my pile of books that I still need to read. But it is what it is.
It's funny. I don't know if this is true for you, and anyone can chime in the comments if they have thoughts about this, but I have like a seasonal thing. Like, it's coming up on, it's spring now, it's coming up on summer, and I tend to start to want to read like more like contemporary romance, whether it's YA or adult, or just like lighter things. And then like when the fall comes, I want to like hunker down with books like the Grisha series, or even Harry Potter, like we were talking about before. Like, I want those like more like earthy, for lack of a better word, stories. And then just, I don't know. But
that's really interesting. I don't have that. I don't have reading seasons. Weird. I'm always trying to read something all the time. I'm usually always in the middle of a book. And I do tend to go in cycles. I'll read a bunch of contemporary and then some fantasy, and then I'll bounce back. I usually don't do contemporary fantasy. Like, I'll go through little seasons of that. But it's not seasonal to match with the real seasons. So that's actually kind of cool. But I could see that it would be fun to reread Harry Potter like over the Christmas break or something.
Yeah.
Did you see there was an article that went around last Christmas that said Harry Potter are Christmas books? I did. Because there's like a heavy Christmas scene in like every book.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can see that. And there's definitely good Christmas scenes in the movies too.
Yeah,
so
yeah. It has that feel. I don't know, like that wintry, well, I guess for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, like that wintry feel. So Jen said same. So thank you for understanding my peculiarity. And then Matt says that he listens to his favorite audiobooks time and time again, which is, that's actually maybe a way to diminish the guilt a little bit. And also you do get the voices and the different,
that's me.
Narrated, which is kind of fun.
That's me. The Night Huntress series by Janine Frost. There's like, I don't know, probably 10 or more books by now. Yeah. I have them all in audio, and I've listened to them all probably 5 or 6 times. Like, sometimes I'll put them on just as like comfort background sounds, because the books are so good, and the narrator is so amazing, and she does these really great voices, and it's like, so I don't know, I just love this series so much, and every now and then I'll just put it on again, and it's like I know the series so well that it can kind of be background noise. I don't want to say music, it's not music, but like background noise, and I can just tune in anytime I want, and I know where it's at in the story. I just really appreciate those books in general. So yeah, I totally feel that. Audiobooks, and you can put them at twice the speed, and then they go really fast. So you can reread it quicker than usual and kind of lessen some of the guilt.
All right. Well, Jen also commented that she reads in cycles that don't necessarily follow the weather. Yeah, yeah. I don't always follow the weather, but I tend to like have like a craving for books like that more seasonally. And then she also wrote, though that could be because we don't have normal seasons in Texas.
She is
hot
correct.
or cold, right?
No, it's either hot, really hot, or cold.
Yeah, it's like one or the
and
other.
it's often all three of those in the same week.
That's
So anyway, while we wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and say our outro. And if you don't know, this is the first time I'll say this. We are starting today. We are going to be uploading all of the audio files of all these videos to a podcast, so you can listen to it instead of watch it. So we're going to have a little intro and outro that we read each time. So for the podcast listeners, it makes more sense to them. So anyway, thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please join our private Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/writersuncut group. You can also catch replays and older episodes on YouTube. Simply search Writers Uncut. If you have questions for future episodes, send us a message on social media. Please share us with your friends and use the hashtag Writers Uncut. And we will see you next week.
Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.